When were the first auto mechanic jobs created? What were the difficulties during the early years of the trade? When did cars become more standardized to work on? When did women enter this job market? What triggered the permanent split between auto mechanics and auto body and fender mechanics into two separate fields? Hi, I'm Ken Smith, and this video will shed some light on those questions and more in the Auto Mechanic, a Historical Perspective. History credits Henry Ford with perfecting efficient automobile manufacturing. In 1908, the automotive landscape shifted dramatically with the introduction of Ford's Model T. Now, historians record that cars first appeared in Europe, so it was there that the need for mechanics was first introduced. It was nearly a decade later before the birth of the Ford Motor Company, and it wasn't until 5 years later that Henry Ford made the Model T. It was this car, affectionately known as the Tin Lizzie, that essentially put the world on wheels. That catchphrase has seemed to last for well over a century now and doesn't appear to lose any traction either. While it is safe to say that the Model T was not as advanced as European cars, the standardized parts of the Model T allowed them to be made faster, which also allowed them to be cheaper to buy. Nearly any working man could afford to purchase one. As more and more automobiles were produced and put into use, dealerships and private businesses began offering mechanic services. And with the standardized parts, the auto mechanic trade became easier to learn. As cars became more common, the need for frequent maintenance birthed auto repair shops in 1914. That competition grew quickly between mechanic businesses and even individual mechanics, as most of them were paid by the hour. The most experienced mechanics worked faster, and that resulted in lower costs to the owner and more business for the mechanic or dealer. In the early days of the automobile, frequent maintenance and repairs was necessary. Independent auto repair shops were actually started by machinists and blacksmiths and bicycle mechanics and others. Their crossover skills gave them the ability to adapt to the ever-expanding rise of automobile service. Some of these skilled mechanics began to fabricate modifications to the auto manufacturer's driveline or chassis, creating larger trucks or custom farm equipment. The late teens and early 20s marked the growth of the assembly line revolution. With Henry Ford's famous Model T, cars became more affordable and widespread, increasing the need for auto repair services. In response, mechanics began to specialize in specific areas, such as engine or transmission repair. The automobile industry quickly expanded, leading to the growth of trade schools and vocational programs to train aspiring mechanics. New car dealers, gasoline stations, and garages in most cities also offered repairs and services. Cars became more reliable, but repairs were still needed, leading to over 60,000 service shops by the 1920s. Throughout the 1920s, General Motors, the Ford Motor Company, and Chrysler ramped up production and auto accessibility. All based out of Detroit, these auto giants established a model for mass production technology, national advertising, and product appeal. GM offered customers credit lines, affordable luxury, and a range of automobiles for every taste and income level. Competition grew quickly between mechanic businesses and even individual mechanics, as most were paid by the hour. The most experienced mechanics worked faster, resulting in lower costs to the owner and more business for the mechanic or dealer. Meanwhile, Ford's assembly line techniques, pioneered by Henry Ford, streamlined production processes, making automobiles more affordable and accessible to the average consumer. Chrysler, led by Walter P. Chrysler, focused on engineering advancements and stylish designs, further contributing to the new competitive auto industry. As a result, auto repair shops during this time started to resemble the ones we know today, with service bays, lifts, and specialized tools. As cars became more complex, so did the tools and skills required to maintain and repair them. This period also saw the introduction of service manuals, making it easier for mechanics to diagnose and fix problems. Trade schools began educating car mechanics who were progressively in greater demand than before. The population was becoming more mobile due to the car industry, but unfortunately, the Great Depression of the 1930s meant that growth in car ownership stalled. As the Great Depression hit, auto sales declined, and the market, including auto maintenance and production, was pressed to continue making a profit despite its inability to evolve until demand increased. During this time of still early car maintenance, many car owners did their own paint work. Automotive paint on early to mid-1900 automobiles was far less durable than the paints that we have available today. Automobiles needed frequent touch-ups for protection from the elements. Car owners would paint their automobiles by hand with paintbrushes. Runs and finish imperfections were common, even on cars directly out of the assembly line, so owners had little reason to hire an individual auto body mechanic to conduct paint repairs. Following the Second World War, car ownership began growing again and never really slowed down. The new rapidly increasing middle class meant demand for cars, and auto repair became high. Technological improvements meant being an auto mechanic was a more skilled profession now. The separation of auto mechanics and body and fender mechanics became a permanent change. It's easy to assume that women entered into men's roles during World War II, but that's actually not true, and especially in the automotive world. Many women were working on cars long before then. Some women were working on them out of necessity. Others were working on them as early as World War I. Still others who were engineers and patent holders. For example, Bertha Benz is considered to be the first automotive engineer. She was born in Germany in 1849. Mary Anderson invented the windshield wiper in 1903. Not to be outdone, Charlotte Bridgewater stepped it up a notch and invented the first automatic windshield wiper in 1917. Wilma Russey was a talented garage mechanic, but she took to the streets and became the first woman to work as a New York taxi driver. We can thank turn signals to Florence Lawrence because she invented the first turn signal, which attached to the rear fender of a car. Dorothy Pullinger managed Galloway Motors in the 1920s and was the first woman to join the Institution of Automobile Engineers. But Mary Wilcox is the one who kept us nice and warm. She invented the heater. And although simple interpretations of her invention were in use by 1917, it wasn't until Ford started installing her system in Model A cars that the idea of keeping car occupants comfy really took off. Today, more and more women are entering the field as mechanics. The automatic transmission, commonly known as the Hydromatic, was a groundbreaking innovation that eliminated the need for manual shifting, making driving more accessible and convenient for more people. And it removed the barrier of manual gear shifting, and it allowed individuals with varying levels of driving skill to operate vehicles more easily and safely. While the automatic transmission brought about many conveniences, it also introduced a new level of complexity to the auto repair field. Unlike manual transmissions, which were simpler in design and mechanics, automatic transmissions involved intricate systems of hydraulic components, torque converters, and planetary gears. The complexity of these systems meant that repairs and maintenance required a higher level of expertise, often requiring specialized knowledge and tools. The mid-20th century was the golden age for auto repair, with an explosion of car models and innovations. The industry saw the rise of iconic brands like Chevrolet, Ford, and Chrysler, as well as the emergence of European and Japanese automakers. With each new model, mechanics had to keep up with the latest technology and repair techniques. During this time, auto repair shops became essential to local communities. Many were family-owned businesses with generations of mechanics passing down their skills and knowledge. The neighborhood service station was the one-stop shop to not only get gas, but to get just about any auto service and maintenance that you might need. The early 70s brought yet another change to the auto mechanic trade. In 1972, the National Institute for Automotive Service Excellence, or otherwise known as ASE, was formed. Its mission was to offer certification tests for automotive professionals through specific testing centers. Passing these exams along with 2 years of experience earned you a certification within your field of expertise. Today, ASE certification is usually required by employers for those interested in pursuing a career in professional automotive service. The 1990s marked the beginning of the modern era of auto repair. As cars became more computerized and technologically advanced, mechanics needed to adapt their skills to the changing landscape. From the simplicity of the Model T to the intricacies of modern EVs, the mechanic serves as a testament to the resilience and adaptability of them and their customers that they ultimately serve. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out these informative and educational videos too. Have a wonderful day, and most of all, y'all be blessed.